Hello, good morning guys. In today's class, we are going to discuss about embedded firmware design approaches and embedded firmware development languages. So in that, first we're going to see about embedded firmware design approaches. So what do you mean by a firmware? Firmware is a permanent software. So firmware is a permanent software programmed into a read-only memory, that is ROM. So this embedded firmware is responsible for controlling the various peripherals of the embedded hardware and generating response in accordance with the functional requirements. So the firmware is considered as the master brain of embedded system. So embedded firmware is stored at permanent memory, that is ROM, which I said earlier. So embedded firmware development process start with the conversion of the firmware requirements into a program market. So using modeling skills like UML or flowchart based representation. So here the firmware design approaches for embedded product is purely dependent on the complexity of functions. So it's again divided, it has two basic approaches. One is conventional procedural based firmware design and embedded operating system OS based design. So in this, so the conventional procedural based firmware design is also known as a superloop model. So in that, first we will going to see about the superloop model. So the superloop based firmware development approach is adopted for applications that are not time critical and where the response time is not so important. So Superloop approach is very much similar to a conventional procedural programming where the code is executed task by task. So the task listed at the top of the program. So the top of the program code will be executed first and the task just below the top are executed after completing the first task. So this is a true procedural one. See, here we can see this. So the firmware execution flow for this will be, first one will be configuring the common parameters and perform initialization for various hardware components, memory, registers, etc. So second, start the first task and execute it. And next, execute the second task, execute the third task, fourth task, fifth task, and it will going to execute at the last. So execute the last defined task, and at last jump back to the first task and follow the same. So this is how it will going to work, the super loop based approach. So if we so even we can visualize the operational sequence listed above in terms of C program code as, see, from the above C program, from this C program code, you can see that the task 1 to n. So here the task 1 to task n are performed one after another, and when the last task, that is nth task, is executed, the firmware execution is again redirected to task 1. So after executing the nth task, again it will redirect it to task 1, and it is repeated forever in the loop. So this repetition is achieved by using an infinite loop. This approach is also referred as super loop based approach. Since the tasks are running inside an infinite loop, the only way to come out of the loop is either a hardware reset or an interrupt assertion. So a hardware reset brings the program execution back to the main loop. An interrupt request suspends the task execution temporarily. So the super loop based design is deployed in low cost embedded products and the product where the response time is not critical. See, for example, reading or writing a data to and from a card using a card reader requires a sequence of operations like checking the presence of a card, authenticating the card, operation of the card, reading the card, writing the card, etc. So that will be the first example. So second, the another a typical example for superloop based product is electronic video game, that is a toy game containing a keypad and display unit. So the program running inside the product may be designed in such a way that it reads the keys to detect whether the user has given any input, and if any key presses is detected, the graphic display is updated. Even if the application misses a key press, it won't create any critical issues. Rather, it will be treated as a bug in the firmware. So the Superloop based design is simple and straightforward without any OS related overheads. So the major drawback of this approach is that any failure in any part of the task will going to affect the total system. If the program hangs up at some point while executing a task, it remains there forever. So another major drawback of Superloop based design approach is the lack of real timeliness. So next we're going to see about the embedded operating system based approach. The first approach is Superloop approach and the second one is embedded OS based approach. So the operating system based approach contains operating system which can be either a general purpose, that is GPOS, and real time operating system, that is RTOS. So in general purpose, that is general purpose OS, that is GPOS based design, is very much similar to a conventional PC based application development where the device contains an operating systems like the operating systems which will be like Windows, Unix, Linux, for desktop PCs and etc. See, for example, in GPOS used embedded product development is Microsoft Windows XP Embedded 8.1, which offers customization to user industry devices like PDA, that is personal digital assistants, handheld devices, portable devices, point of scale, terminals, patient monitoring systems, and etc. So OS based applications also require a driver software. So for different hardware present on the board to communicate with them is the real-time operating systems. So this real-time operating system is employed in embedded products demanding real-time responses. So RTOS respond in timely and predictable manner to events. So real-time operating system contains a real-time kernel responsible for performing preemptive multitasking scheduling and multitask multiple threads, etc. So for example, in RTOS, a temperature, a body temperature sensor, so it will going to give the real-time temperature of a human body or thermal, and in COVID-19 we are using the thermal scanners. So the thermal scanners and the temperature, body temperature checkers, these things will going to work on a real time. Whatever the current at present body temperature, it will going to show exactly. That is what the real-time operating system is of. So next is embedded firmware development languages. So the embedded firmware is again it's of three. One is controller specific language. In this controller specific language, it will be called also as assembly language or low level language. And the second one is control independent language, which will be used in C, C++, Java, etc. And third one is again a hybrid, a combination of assembly and an high level language. So first we're going to see about assembly language based development. So assembly language is the human readable notation of machine language, whereas machine language is a processor understandable language. So processor deals only with the binaries, as you guys know, ones and zeros. Machine language is binary representation. So assembly language and machine language are processor or a controller dependent, and an assembly program written for one processor or a one controller family will not work with others. As I will be keep on saying in previous lectures, if there is any specific embedded system which is designed for a particular one, which cannot be used in another one. As an example, I will be saying a embedded system which is designed for a washing machine, it can be not be used in a camera. So that is what it is. So assembly language program is the task of writing processor specific machine code in mnemonic form, converting the mnemonics into actual processor instructions and associated data using an assembler. So here we are going to see an example. So the general format of an assembly language instruction is an opcode followed by an operands. So move A. So move A will be the opcode and 30 will be the operand. So what the opcode will going to tell, the opcode will going to tell the processor what to do, and the operand will going to provide the data and information required to perform the action. See, for example, move A comma hash of 30. So this instruction is a mnemonic moves. Decimal value is 30 to an accumulator register. We're going to accumulate in register A. So here, what we are going to do, the number 30, this instruction, what we are going to do, the number 30 will be stored in this A. So here, the move A is an opcode and 30 will be its operand. So the same instruction, when you return in machine language, if you convert move A in machine language, it will be represented in a binary form. So move A will be represented like this. This will be a move A representation. So where the first 8-bit binary value represents the opcode move A. So this thing, it is a move A, and the second 8-bit binary value represent 30. So this will be a 30. So move A representation in binary form will be like this. That is a machine level language form will be like this. So next, a machine code program thus consists of a sequence of assembly language instruction where each statement contains mnemonic opcode plus operands. So here there is a syntax label opcode operands comment. So again is a label, and A is an opcode and 30 is an operand, and here we will going to write a command. So the command what you have written here is add 30 to register A. So what this will going to do, the value 30 will be added to this A, correct? So that is what it will going to do in machine code programming. So next is the sample code given below. So that means this code is for assembly language that illustrate the structured assembly language programming. So each assembly instruction should be written in a separate line, as you guys know. So move R0, hash of 255. So what it will going to do, it will 255 will be loaded into a register or not. So what DJNE will going to do, DJNE is a for loop, where it will going to decrement the value R1, and it will going to check whether it's equal or not equal, and in a loop till it reaches R1 equals to 0. Next, if it R1 when it reaches to 0, it will going to call to a return, that is return to a calling program. It will go back to a return to a calling program. So next is advantages of assembly language based development and drawbacks of assembly language based development. So the advantages is efficient code memory, and data memory usage. It will going to give an high performance, low level hardware access, and code reverse engineering. So the drawback is high development time, developer dependency, non-portable. So next is high level language based development. So any high level language like C, C++, Java with a supported cross compiler for the target processor can be used for embedded firmware development. So the most commonly used high-level language for embedded firmware application is C programming. So C is well-defined, easy to use high-level language with extensive cross-platform developer tool support. So nowadays, cross compilers for C++ is also emerging out. So the various steps involved in high-level language-based embedded firmware development is same as that of assembly language-based development, except the conversion of source file written in high-level language to object file done by a cross-compiler. Whereas in assembly language-based development, it is carried out by an assembler. So here next we're going to see the advantages of high-level language-based development and drawbacks of high-level language-based development. So the advantages is reduced development time, developer independency, and portability, whereas the drawback is cross compiler available for high level language may not be used so efficient, investment required for high level language based development tools. So next is mixing assembly level language and the high level language. So certain embedded firmware development situations may demand the mixing of high level language and assembly level language, and vice versa also. So high level languages and assembly level languages are usually mixed in three ways. One are mixing assembly language with high level language, mixing high-level language with assembly language, and inline assembly programming. So first we're going to see the mixing high-level language with an high-level assembly language with an high-level language. So assembly language routines are mixed with C in situation where the entire program is written in C and the cross compilers do not have any inbuilt in support for implementing. So mixing C and assembly is little complicated in the sense the programmer must be aware of how parameters are passed from the C routine to assembly and the values are returned from assembly routine to C and how assembly routine is invoked from C, which will be bit complicated. So these are the steps we're going to follow: the mixing of high level language to an assembly level language. And next we're going to see the C versus embedded C. So these are the difference between C and the embedded C. So thank you guys. So this ends your module 4. We're going to continue with module 5 from next class.